You know, it's one thing to say, racism is bad. It's another to try to engage, right? Especially when I know, as a white guy, I'm part of the problem. That I will always be part of the problem. And the best I can do is to try to explain what that issue is, because otherwise you'll never break down the institutional. The institutional, well, that's what this is about, is the institution. This is called Waking Up to Racism is something like the Matrix. 1. Building a skyscraper's scaffolding is dangerous work. Millions of abdomens have clenched at that 1932 photo. You know the one. The workers having lunch in September on that naked steel beam. Surely a triumph. But I have a question. What happened to the rabbits and deer that roamed that land for centuries? What does that building do? What does that building want? How many red lines has it drawn? We celebrate the triumph of framework. Wait, we is the wrong word. That would require inclusivity, sensitivity, perceptivity. But don't listen to me, I'm just a white guy. I spent forever thinking we. But that's wrong. Tuskegee studying syphilis on black men without consent is wronger still, but racism isn't a point of comparison. Calling a mouse an elephant doesn't change the mouse. 2. So it must be I, the white guy, for I cannot be a we. I cannot speak for others. I can choose to learn the blueprints. Let me put it plain. I can choose to avoid and denounce bigotry, but I cannot control whether I'm labeled a racist. The I is still trying to learn those blueprints. After all, there's a lot to study. And after all, my great-grandparents and their friends drafted the prototype, and their children were the ones who built the skyscraper. Recognizing those blueprints for what they are is that after-alarm wake-up, the morning yawn before being swept away by the realization that work actually started 10 minutes ago. That's something like the Matrix. Wake up, I. Wake up, we. See. 3. See how every steel beam and load-bearing bolt has its place. Every bit of cosmetic paint and light fixture just is set up to put its inhabitants at ease. The AC designed to cool the system down. The furnace is just another rhythmic internal regulator capable of combating external threats. These are our money-grubbing bankers making loan decisions using digital precision to pander power based on a name and photo. The cops and judges who equivocate with quills and cups, black voting districts suppressed with comically evil corks jammed down the throats of men struggling to breathe. The gun-toting, camo-wearing, card-carrying supremacists who pull the overturned window like oxen, anticipating the genocide that accompanied Manifest Destiny. Denial of education and opportunity are merely the skyscraper's storage closets among a mighty cape set up by kings who view our communities and schools as battlegrounds. Shitholes, to quote a notable white supremacist. Instead, these are downtrodden children of God begging for the rights to sunlight. And until I woke up from the Matrix, I never realized that you could deny somebody something basic like sunlight just using legislation. 4. I used to think the building should be, repurposed, or that the kings should be reasoned with. But kings cannot be reasoned with. Now, I only believe in demolition. Thank you.
So, this is not an elegy for Mike Brown by Dennis Smith. I am sick of writing this poem, but bring the boy. His new name, his same old body, ordinary, black, dead thing. Bring him, and we will mourn until we forget what we are mourning. And isn't that what being black is about? Not the joy of it, but the feeling you get when you were looking at your child, turn your head, and poof, no more child. That feeling, that's black. Think. Once a white girl was kidnapped, and that's the Trojan War. Later, at the block, Troy got shot, and that was Tuesday. Are we not worthy of a city of ash, of 1,000 ships launched because we are missed? Always, something deserves to be burned. It's never the right thing nowadays. I demand a war to bring the dead boy back, no matter what his name is this time. I at least demand a song we'll do just fine. Look at what the Lord has made above Missouri, sweet sweet. And this is the poem that me and my students wrote about that one. Smudge stick after Azariah and Isaiah after Dennis. We are absolutely worthy of a city of ash. Sweet smoke dancing over burning buildings and relics of our oppression, but when I said it, this is not how I meant it. When I said my life matters, that this black body, darker than a paper bag, wider than a sample size, too coarse to be your fine-tooth comb, is precious. When I said seize the means of production, when I said eat the rich, I meant drag the guillotine to the governor's mansion, not loot the corner store or burn up the barber shop, not paint a slogan in the street, even if it is foot track magic, even if it is right in front of the Golden Tower. I meant for us to really cleanse it with fire, and meant to make way for the kings.
I transitioned 32 years ago. Over that time, I've seen a lot of hate directed at trans people, and I'm aware that the vast majority of hate and violence has been suffered by black trans people and trans people of color. I'd like to dedicate my reading to them. But there are some things that all trans people share, and one of those things is going through puberty. How to kill a 12-year-old girl. Make her go through puberty as a boy. Sure, she's been a boy since her birth physically, but that isn't her doing. That penis is a personal assault, sending her somersaulting in confusion. It's not her fault that she has a penis between her legs where a vagina should be, but for the first 11 years it didn't matter all that much, since thankfully there was nothing sexual going on. And sure, back when she was 5, she discovered that she was put on the wrong team, but she did her best to fit in and figured one of these days God will answer her nightly prayer and take away that thing and make everyone realize she was a girl. And she had been praying that very night when she was 12, the night before the day puberty came rushing in like a bullet train, a hurricane, a chain of sensations that locked her into the wrong lane with a body she now had to occupy like a hostage, scratching at the door, but knowing nobody was coming to let her out. Meanwhile, the penis she hates has a fucking mind of its own, and now she has to deal with it without asking for any help, because if she tells anyone her real gender in the year 1957, she's going to be wearing the jacket with the wraparound sleeves, sitting in the rubber room at the funny farm. No more joys, don't make noise, you're the land of misfit boys. So she goes with the flow, learns how to snow the bros with verbal ammo to keep everyone off tempo so they don't see her head to toe. She can't afford to be seen. So she fights her way through male puberty, not understanding any of the signals, learning how to masturbate by seeing a classmate make the jack-off sign behind their history teacher's back. Oh, so that's how it works. Why don't they give you a goddamn manual with this thing? And then she starts hearing other boys talk about girls, and she doesn't feel anything for girls or boys. You know how hard it is to figure out your sexual orientation when you have a secret aspiration for a different gender calibration? It's like flying from New York to LA without a plane, but you're still speeding along at 35,000 feet, flapping your arms to keep from falling, and screaming bloody murder inside your head, and then somehow you survive that day, and you get up and do it all over again. And that's how to kill a 12-year-old girl. You ever seen an origami crane before it's finished? Looks like a piece of waste paper. And that's what she feels she is. Scrap of waste paper. It was folded wrong. It will never unfurl its wings. And without that 12-year-old girl around to guide her, she decides at 17, 21, or 33, or 45, or 62 to put herself in the ground too, because there is no hope. Her wrists are too thick. She's too tall. She's a mistake. So she just follows that 12-year-old girl who died inside her, pulls the earth around herself, settles back into the mud and silt, feels the dirt sprinkling her face until it piles up and fills her nostrils, her mouth, as she waits for another world, another life, waiting for a body that matches her soul.
So there's an allusion in this poem to our former president. However, these issues obviously preceded him and continue since he's gone. So, you know, we still got to deal with a lot of shit. But I wrote this when, shortly after George Floyd died and Donald Trump was sending federal troops or whatever, you know, police to Portland to put down protests and threatening to send them to other cities. And, you know, I am not ready to die yet. I am not ready to go gently into Dylan's good night while wannabe Blackwater thugs crush kinfolk for cash in Portland and maybe soon Cleveland. I am not ready to die before there is justice for Sandra Bland and Breonna Taylor. I am not ready to let go while white would-be masters and their whelps, so wary of wearing masks, seem rapt with delight at the thought of regurgitating yesterday's noose in their fight against Black Lives Mattering. Oh, the splattering. I am not ready to rest on my laurels, worthless as they may be, while there is work to do, and while few of the words the politicians spew are true. Believe me, I am not ready to watch my loved ones be ground down into the Cleveland blacktop by blackguards and black shirts issued forth from Washington or wherever by the liar, cheat, and blackheart-in-chief who believes the police force that killed 12-year-old Tamir Rice, the same Cleveland police force that shot 137 bullets into unarmed Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams, might need a little extra firepower to carry out their black work. I am not ready to die, friends, unless it is by your side in the fight for fairness, for right, and for equal justice.
Thank you for coming. I wrote this as our grandson started preschool this year. It's entitled to a grandson. Do not allow it to consume your light. Do not allow it. At first, a glance, a tone of voice, a stranger's coldness nibbles at your brown lightness, barely noticed, but like a mouse at night, it leaves a dropping or two in your consciousness to notice past. Do not allow it to consume your light. Do not allow it. In the din of a classroom, it will be you that is too loud, who lacks self-control, whose laughter and joy is considered lack of seriousness. Others pause in their bustle and take note. You are the one reprimanded. Soon you pause, when once you did not hesitate, your smile doubt faded. Do not allow it to consume your light. Do not allow it. In time, the girls whisper, sniggers on the playground, questions about your hair, your full lips, mocking laughter, unfamiliar words evoke a sense of shame. Provoke anger evolving into rage. Use cry and try to hide. Do not allow it to consume your light. Do not allow it. Relentless, it tries to pull you toward its dark, malevolent wasteland, irrepressible. A black hole striving to swallow your light, devour your being, adding you to its conquered victims. Do not allow it to consume your light. Do not allow it. Your light within,
your precious light, stoke it in the stillness. Seek the source of luminescence that dispels darkness. Gradually inflame your inner light, its incandescence flaring up when most needed, until your light blazes. A supernova.
2022. A TikTok is posted and reposted. On the original video, he says, quote, "Me fighting the urge not to leave the convo after the girl I met 3 days ago tells me she was sexually assaulted." Some of the comments are as follows. "Well, now it's time for me to tell her that I'm competitive." They be saying it like a badge of honor or something. And the comment that propelled me to write this piece, second time's a charm. I was 11 when a friend of my stepfather slapped my ass and told me, quote, "Don't ask what that was about." So I didn't. For I was told by so many boys and men in my life that my ass was my best feature. In a way, I think that man knew. Even as I was barely into puberty, still firmly in the ending age of girlhood, that men would just do this to me. So he granted himself the privilege of being first. At age 13, my aunt and uncle took me shopping for new school clothes. As I tried on jeans that were simultaneously too small and too large for me, my uncle looks me over in the mirror, his eyes lingering on my hips and ass, the curves that would eventually entice and damn in equal parts. He remarks how I should be shopping in the women's section instead of the girls. Later that year, while delighting in trying to break my girlish spirit, my stepfather proclaims how he's going to run away with me when I turn 18, how I'm shaped so womanly, how it's crazy how curvy I am. At age 19, I almost marry a man many years my senior who screams at me when I refuse to do certain things for him. He threatens to cheat on me if I don't capitulate, and I later find out that he does so anyways. He tells me that I do these things so well, it's my own fault for making him crazed with lust. I am far too tempting. My womanliness makes him do things that he wouldn't otherwise, of course. It comes as no surprise to this day that I am racked with confusion, anger, and guilt over the burden of womanhood that men create. I am so disillusioned with my own assigned gender identity that sometimes even the feeling of my breasts against my chest hang like an albatross. This is the price of womanhood, the eternal risk, the mark of men. Because of this, I am exhausted. What's even funnier is that I want to trust men desperately, despite them continually having caused the most pain I've ever endured. But then I see these comments, men feeling free to say what they truly feel, emboldened by the illusion of anonymity, but they are not anonymous to me. I see them passing by each day, each man becoming both a hope and a threat to me. Even the kindest men in my life are never far from potentially contributing to that violence. Modern American masculinity maims, it rapes, it kills, and it does so all the while telling you that this is normal. It's just locker room talk, and really, they wouldn't have to do those things to you if they weren't so damn womanly. Why then are men so surprised when mythical figures are created, like Medusas and Liliths? Why can we not assume monstrosity in an effort for self-defense? I so badly want to be a trusting Eve, but I fear that I've long since been cast out of the Garden of Eden. Thank you.
Several of you have mentioned history. You referred to it, Quartez, you mentioned it in your opening remarks. And all of what we're experiencing today builds on the history that we have to face about our country, whether it has to do with racism because of color or because of ethnicity or gender or whatever else. So my poems evoke the history of our country as it relates to slavery. These 3 poems that I have are from testimonies that were made by either abolitionists, anti-slavery activists, or victims themselves, fugitives, runaways themselves. And the purpose for reconstituting these testimonies into poetry so that we don't forget. So so that their words resonate with us today. The first testimony is the story of Grace Anna Lewis from Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, a Quaker woman who participated along with her family in the Underground Railroad. And this is her story about an event. Rachel Moore escaped with her 6 young children and came to our farm in the most pitiful condition. After they left the home of their master, a rain came on, and the flapping of their wet garments against their unprotected limbs wore off the skin until it bled with every step. Yet their sense of danger, of capture, was so great that they pressed forward with all the speed possible to them, the mother carrying the youngest child to hasten them forward. She wore but a single garment, a coarse, heavy dress woven in broken stripes of earth.
I learned how to draw by sketching Tamir's face in the dirt with the stitches my mom beat into my spirit to prevent me from becoming those kids who stood outside their bodies, trying to punch back the officer that killed them as if they could hear the dead. My skin now hangs on a host of tree branches in my backyard. All around me are mirrors with lesions. When I look through them, I see myself being gunned down by men dressed in robes. I told a cop once that when Tamir Rice was killed, he was reincarnated into a lightning bolt that contained every vault of black children killed by an officer. And when it stormed, it was them taking back the sky. I await the second coming, when every police officer removed their ski masks so we can see all the faces responsible for the blood running into classrooms, filling in for children who will never make it back to class alive. The newscast said, there's a flood warning, which is to say, it's a blood warning. Before I could read, I learned to fear a cop's trigger finger. Tamir's ghost and all of his dead allies climb up a light post, shouting, "Fuck the alive." Now can you hear me? Part 2. Former colleague said, Tamir used to run the streets after school. He was a problem student, as if he needed to be killed, as if bullets were his salvation, as if he needed to be saved. When a cop's gun becomes a savior complex. Part 3. During my first year teaching, we hung photos of Tamir on the bulletin boards, hung the letters we wrote to his mother. I was told to take the bulletin boards down because it wasn't age appropriate, as if children are too young to know when they have been shot and shot and shot. Thank you.
Elijah was played in 3 parts. After Tamir in 3 parts by Quartez Harris. It's got a really long title. 1. When I heard Elijah used to be a violinist, I picked up my own bow and tried to make music of his memory. Spreading rosin across the hairs felt like grinding his bones into baby powder, or spreading his ashes onto my floor. When I dragged my bow across the strings, I tried to make a vibration strong enough to shake his casket. Maybe make him dance a little like a living boy would. I always felt that whenever one of us black kids are murdered, we each become a different note of the same song. And every chord that rings from a black orchestra is a group of black children snatching back their voices and clinging to one last breath of air. I think maybe, if we play loud enough, Elijah's blood will start dripping from police officers' ears, because our music will sound like nothing but lost children who just got their last chance to scream. There's no escaping this now. Listen to their song. Let it be the last lullaby for the animals Elijah played for in the shelter, and the ear-piercing melody of revenge resurrecting. Can you hear that beautiful music? 2. Everyone I told Elijah's story asked why no one stopped him from wearing a ski mask at night. he get his proper black boy training? Don't we teach our children not to look suspicious? As if he was to blame for his own murder. Like he failed some test you take to keep your life. Like he deserved to have ketamine in his veins instead of blood. 3. I read my sister Elijah McClain's last words. Told her the way he strung his words together reminded me of her. She laughed, and I thought maybe she was just too young to understand, even though she's old enough to be mad.